Plenty of news to get into today in the world of Formula One here at GPFans. Once more, we're talking about the Australian Grand Prix, but rather than barriers to entry into the country, we're actually getting into the redesign of Albert Park with some comments from Ricciardo. And of course, we're still talking the new regulation changes in 2022. Some of the bigwigs and technical directors around the pit lane give their thoughts on all of the pitfalls and problems with dealing with the redesign. I'm Ollie Wilson for GPFans. This is the news in F1. Hit the subscribe button down below to stay up to date with all of the content and news that we produce here at the channel. But now let's talk Mercedes and also the Australian Grand Prix. Let's talk technical regulations to start the news this week, with Mercedes Chief Technical Officer James Allison labelling Formula One's new regulations for 2022 as being laced with landmines and treasures. Mercedes were the kings of the turbo hybrid era in Formula One, taking the last 8 straight constructors titles, but the behemoth of the pit lane is, like everybody else, dealing with adapting to the changes that have been introduced to car aerodynamics. This new era of the sport is certainly a threat to the Silver Arrow's dominance of the last few years. With so many changes made to how the cars will look and feel on track, especially when it comes to nose-to-tail racing, Allison has described a shake-up to the Formula One regulations as dwarfing anything that has gone before it, speaking candidly in a Mercedes promotional video called Road to 2022. We've been buried in them, the regulations, and the reality of making them real for so long, to forget sometimes just what a massive set of regulation changes these 2022 rules represent, said Allison. I've been working in the sport for over 30 years and they dwarf anything else I've ever seen. I suspect if we were to dig out Wikipedia and go through every season of the sport there has ever been, there would be nothing to match the scale of the change that comes with 2022. The changes then to the sport provide an almost coin flip moment in Formula One, representing the opportunity teams have to fall behind the competition, missing a major design tweak to the rest of the pack, or finding a crucial edge or loophole in the regulations to get the advantage over the competition. When the regulations change in such large measures as these ones, we approach that with all the fun and relish that challenge deserves, added Allison. Our job is to look for technical opportunity in regulations, then use our combined wit and skill and all the effort we make collectively to try to find a configuration of car that will be better than anyone else's approach to it. And when everything is as new as this, then everywhere you look in that regulation set, twice as thick as the old one, there is opportunity and, of course, there's jeopardy. So we try to pick our way through the potential minefield, picking up all the little boxes of treasure that may be set in amongst the landmines to end up with a car we hope will see us pitching up at the front of the grid. Of course, everybody remembers what happened in 2009 and what happened with Brawn Racing, so will we have a scenario like that again in 2022? Elsewhere, Ricciardo has revealed he played a part in the redesign of the Australian Grand Prix circuit that runs through Albert Park in Melbourne, a track that we should see back in Formula One in 2022. Since it hit the F1 circuit 25 years ago, Albert Park has barely been touched in terms of the circuit's layout and design. But after 2 years off the Grand Prix list after the COVID-19 pandemic caused problems with hosting the Australian Grand Prix, it is finally back and it's been given a revamp for 2022 to go hand in hand with the upcoming changes in the sport's regulations. The redesign actually began 3 years ago, with the physical work taking place over the last 2 years, with circuit organisers releasing footage of the changes taking place in a 4-part video series entitled The Evolution of Albert Park, the brand new F1 Australian Grand Prix circuit. Way to keep it snappy there, guys. I think with the new design at Albert Park, it's really focused on improving the racing, the spectacle for Sunday, to create more opportunities for overtaking, said the McLaren driver Ricciardo. It's a beautiful circuit, but it's always been quite narrow and tight, and therefore quite tricky to overtake. We really tried to exploit some areas to allow more slipstreaming, more chance of overtaking under braking. The Australian driver wasn't the only racer involved in the redesign ideas, but certainly with this being his home Grand Prix, there will be plenty of weight behind his words. That's what I was really happy with, that a bunch of us drivers were consulted on this, continued Ricciardo. We were allowed to give our thoughts and input. Every driver We might not all be aligned, but I think the purpose of this is to make the Sunday better. I had that in mind when I gave my input. If 2022 promises everything it does, with being able to follow and the racing to be enhanced, then coming to a circuit like Albert Park with these changes should make for a pretty amazing spectacle. Albert Park then, such a classic track in the modern day era of Formula 1. What do you think of the ideas of redesigning it though? Do you think they're going to change too much to it? Have you had a chance to have a look at the first part of the 4-part special on the redesign? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Follow the latest news and views from around Formula 1 at gpfans.com and at gpfansglobal on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the content we produce here at the YouTube channel just down below.